Please start.
Hello everyone, welcome to ABP Education. My name is Prabjeet Singh and I would like to welcome you all to the 8th webinar in the Campus to Career series today. And before talking about the webinar today, let me introduce to you abpeducation.com. abpeducation.com is a recently launched portal from the ABP group, and basically ABP Education is all about anything that happens in the higher education circuit. From exams, career guidance, tips, educators, students, there is everything that is covered by abpeducation.com. And now returning to the uh, 8th webinar in the Campus to Career series. This series, basically the Campus to Career series, started on the August 12th with Bengal Education Leaders Summit, where Mr. Partho Chatterjee, the Bengal Education Minister, was also present. And now today, talking about the webinar, the subject of today's webinar, how technology is changing careers in finance, fintech, blockchain, and more. And now, without any delay, I would like to introduce to you the elite panelists. First on the panel is Mr. J.A. Chaudhary, Chairman of Blockchain Committee, Bureau of Indian Standards, Government of India. During the early days of his career, he was awarded with the NDRC Independence Day Invention Award by the Government of India. He has also worked at ISRO Satellite Center and has developed telemetry subsystems for Rohini and Bhaskara satellites. Welcome. Next on the panel is Mr. Vishal Kanwati, Chief of Innovation, NPCI. He has around 20 years of experience in the payment industry and has expertise in payments and retail banking. Mr. Vishal has been instrumental in seeing the growth of various products at NPCI, including UPI, RuPay, NETC, and AEPS. Welcome, Mr. Next on the panel is Mr. Rajesh Dudu, VP and Practice Leader, Blockchain and Cybersecurity, Tech Mahindra. Under his leadership, Tech Mahindra has been recognized as one of the global blockchain leaders by several leading analysts, industry bodies like the World Economic Forum, and governments such as the state government of Telangana. Rajesh.
Hello, everyone.
Next on the panel is Mr. Shrikant Taluri, founder InCube. Mr. Shrikant has 15 years of corporate exposure and has successfully executed large-scale digital infrastructure design, prototyping, build migration, upgrades, rehabilitation efforts in SOA setup for top global brands. Welcome, Mr.
Hello. Yeah, good afternoon.
Next on the panel is Mr. Rangin Lahiri, founder at Your VC, blockchain-powered decentralized investment bank and social crowdfunding, finfluencer, startup enabler, and blockchain evangelist. Mr. Rangin has built a social fintech and decentralized finance platform with an aim to be the first decentralized investment bank on blockchain. Welcome, Mr. Lahiri.
Hello, thank you.
And now introducing our moderator, Dr. Soikot Chatterjee, HOD, School of Engineering and Technology, Adams University. With 2 decades of his experience, he has various portfolios and has successfully contributed to industry-oriented curriculum design, framing of academic policies, and strategic planning of industry-supported advanced training centers. Welcome, Mr. Chatterjee, and now I hand over the session to you. Have a great one.
Thank you, Mr. Prabjeet, and as a moderator, I welcome all the revered panelists and all the participants and the attendees. So this is going to be another session under the flag of ownership of ABP Education. And today's session, we are trying to address the participants' various queries, and we are going to discuss on the topic like how technology is changing the career in finance. Now, talking about finance, the first thing which comes into my mind is finance is nothing but managing money. That's the most important aspect that I touch upon. But finance is, of course, is one of the very important subject which is affecting the entire society as well as the business. Now, choosing a career in finance may lead us to different roles. The participants who are participating are trying to carve out a path and try to lead a role in their career, which may tantamount to a role in investment banking, commercial banking, or let's say insurance, then real estate and whatnot. So there are many more roles that can be, that can a participant fit into while pursuing a career in finance. But the subject that what we are going to deal with today, that what degree is offered in finance at the undergraduate level, at the postgraduate level, or for that sake at the diploma level. And we'll raise that pertinent question that is it essential that I need to have proper degree in finance to create a place in the financial world, or just an understanding of finance being from other streams? Can I create a niche area as a career? So that aspect we will also touch upon. Now going forward, so if we just see the traditional finance subject, so traditionally it is interconnected with the same group of subjects which we call finance, accounting, management, and economics. But has technology a role into it? Was technology to be, let us say, at a certain degree involved right from the very beginning? Let us say when in the mid 20th century we came out with credit cards, and then we rolled on to go for ATMs, and now we are going for electronic trading floors, or let us say personalized banking, mobile banking, investment planning. Okay, so all these aspects are being touched by technology in one way or the other. So how technology is making an impact and making a foray into the finance world, we'll like to touch upon. So one other thing that is coming into my mind, which I like to inquire with the panelists, that there are different technologies which are going to change the world of finance, or which are going to rule the world of finance in the years to come. It is already in process, and in the years to come, we'll see more technological transformations. But is there a regulatory technology by its side which is trying to navigate this complex world of regulations and compliances? So it is dubbed as RegTech. So we'll also touch upon that aspect, that how to monitor, how to mandate, and how to deal with this complex world that the technology is bringing forward to us. Now, while we see that the industry has catapulted with the technological transformations, bringing in the recent advancements, let us say artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain technology, data sciences. Now, is the education sector synchronized with these technology transformations? Is the education sector parallelly developing and transforming itself to meet the demands of the industry? Because see, when the industry adopts the technology transformations, is the education sector simultaneously preparing the graduates to meet those challenges? So I hope probably I echo from the participants the questions, the doubts, the curiosity which I have echoes the participants as well. So we have a reward group of panelists over here. So we'll go one by one, and we'll try to understand that how technology can really change a career in finance. What was the traditional career in finance? What are the traditional subjects? What are the basic subjects which we are dealing with when you want to make a career in finance? And how add-on we need to develop ourselves, we need to develop that skill set. Because literally speaking, when we talked about finance in the earlier days, the career, the curriculum, the aspects were not much involving the technological domain. So information technology has been playing a major role, but is the curriculum being ready while imbibing those technological transformations? So we will certainly touch upon those aspects. Now, just I like to go one by one with their opening comments, and slowly we can dive into the other factors. So I'll straight away like to go to Chaudhary sir. So I welcome you, sir. You are an important figure in this area, working for quite a long time, and you represent the government under Bureau of Indian Standards. So, sir, I'd like to have your opening comment in the sense, now if you go retrospective, you see a career in finance, which was much to deal with statistics, economics, the managerial skills and all that. And now slowly what we are doing, we are getting technology into this area. So how the aspirants will prepare themselves to meet the demands of the careers. So I like to request you to throw light on what are the career demands in the present scenario and what you foresee in the future, and how the students can prepare themselves to meet those career demands. Chaudhary sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Chatterjee, for your gracious introduction. Welcome to all the delegates, mostly from engineering colleges and MBA schools, for this very important topic today, what we are going to discuss. Actually, if you see both whatever Dr. Chatterjee mentioned, finance and the technology, both these sectors are actually horizontal sectors. They are not vertical sectors. They cut across every industry, whether it's automotive industry or agri-tech industry or healthcare industry or government. Everywhere, technology is all pervasive these days. It's a horizontal play. Similarly, finance, whether you are a startup company in a niche technology, doesn't matter, but you should know what finance means. Otherwise, they will not be able to survive. So finance is also has become the integral part of every individual, every corporate, every startup across all the sectors. So actually, if you see how the transformations happened, I still remember during 80s, there were a lot of people, a lot of banks employees, they used to go on strikes because there is a plan for introducing the computers in the respective banks, and they used to go on strikes forever, and they thought that they are going to lose their jobs because of the computerization. Over a period of time, they realized that because of the computerization, bank business has grown. They were able to expand into even the rural areas. They were able to create more job opportunities. That's how the computerization helped the banking segment and also to some extent insurance segment. That was the initial phase of the transformation which happened in the financial sector, in particular banking. Recently, about 1 year back, there was an interview by the State Bank of India chairman, CMD, and he was talking about these things, how State Bank of India is moving towards adopting new technologies. He made a very important statement. He said, SBI, State Bank of India, is not a bank. We are a technology company, but we also do banking as a service to our customers. So that is a very big statement coming from a big bank like State Bank of India. And he says, why SBI is a technology company, not a bank? Because he says, now we are going the conventional bank to a digital bank. And we are introducing all these technologies. Our people have to learn what is cyber security, what is data science, what is artificial intelligence, what is blockchain technology. All the fundamental emerging technologies we have to introduce, we have to learn. Then only we'll be able to take this bank to the new heights. Otherwise, so much of competition is happening. Few digital banks are coming, like for example, DBS, Digital Bank of Singapore. So such banks are coming, and hardly there are branches of them, but they are doing more business than other conventional banks. So if SBI has to survive, we have to take State Bank of India, adopt the new digital technologies so that our productivity can improve, and we'll be able to get the satisfaction from all our customers. So that is the trend which is happening today. I'll give you one more anecdote. It seems there was a big international conference for the insurance regulators and also the insurance companies. The top insurance companies, they all, it happened in Europe, this conference somewhere in Europe. And they all were attending this conference. And there was a board meeting where the chairmen and CEOs of these global insurance companies, they had a table discussion. In the roundtable discussion, everybody said, though we are billion-dollar companies today, billion-dollar insurance global companies, but looks like we are not going to survive. Why? Because the startup companies with more technological innovations, more data science, this thing, and artificial intelligence and machine learning, reinforced learning technologies, they are able to serve our customers better, and most of our customers are actually going to them because their transaction times are less than 10% of what our insurance companies are doing. So they were all worried whether we will survive in this kind of a global transformation in a disruptive era when technology is going to reshape the economy, reshape the organizations. So that is true. Today, in India, if you see the fintech startups, in the last 5 years, there is exponential growth of the fintech startups in India. And the way they are operating, I'll tell you two examples. One fintech company called CapDost in Bangalore. Earlier, none of the drivers, car drivers, taxi drivers, they were not having any kind of a banking kind of instrument. They were not knowing how to file the income tax returns. All those issues were there. And this lady, Yamuna Shastri, who's the founder CEO of CapDost, she was able to pull all these people into technology, one platform using a portal. And she is able to provide not only all other value-added services, even the microfinance to them, and so that they not have to worry about how can I pay the fee for my school kids or college students and all that this thing. All those instruments are made with a click of a button from a smartphone, and they were enjoying that this thing. So that's one example. The second example I want to give is a financial inclusion example called KIST. KIST is promoted by all the IITians, IIT alumni people, and Ranveer is the founder CEO of the company. And he came to me when I was I was the special chief secretary to Andhra Pradesh government running the FinTech Valley Vizag. That time they wanted to set up their operations in Vizag. Then I asked him, what is your business model? He says, today, if somebody wants to buy a television set or a refrigerator or a washing machine, because all these things are becoming essential commodities one should have because labor costs are going up. But the banks are charging 18%, 20%, 25%. Some microfinance companies are also charging more. Whereas I'm able to provide at zero interest rate to the end consumers. Then I asked him, what is the business model? How are you able to provide, because you are taking money from the bank, because you don't have money, you are taking the money from the banks at some interest rates, and you are giving this same this thing to the end, your consumers. What he said, I am tying up with the manufacturers directly, they get the orders, and I am delivering to the end consumers, and manufacturers are giving 35%. Out of that, some 8% or 9% I give to the banks who are providing me the finance, and that way, I mean, I'm able to serve. So, like this, a lot of innovative, and these people within half an hour they can decide whether X is a credible person to invest this thing or provide the loan to them. Earlier, it used to take at least few weeks. So the transaction time has come down, the interest rates are coming down, and the people who are underserved in the rural areas, they're also getting under the financial inclusion. A lot of startups mushrooming everywhere. They are providing excellent service. So this is a sea change of thing. I mean, ultimately, the end users are getting benefited. I also wanted to mention one important thing which Government of India introduced when they introduced the JAM Trinity. What is JAM Trinity is Jandan program, mobile, Aadhaar and mobile. So Jandan program, during the Jandan program, many millions of unbanked people, they were able to get the bank accounts. And because of the bank accounts, now the central government or state government directly, they send the money to the those end consumers. That's the Jandan program. And Aadhaar, you know, all of you that under another Nelkani, we were able to create, I don't think this kind of facility is there anywhere in the globe. for a billion plus population, the other unique identity, this thing that really helped to really speed up all the new technology interventions in the country. And of course,
Right, sir.
mobile is another the big thing today. I am in my village, a remote village, rural village in Andhra Pradesh called Anantapur. Here I am noticing the ordinary farmers using the smart mobile. He's able to talk to consultants, talk to the e-commerce markets, and where to deliver at what price. This thing, the way they have become more tech savvy. I don't think even urban people are that tech savvy using smart mobile. So that is a kind of transformation. This thing, and also another thing which I noticed in my village, a lot of people who are working in the IT industry because of the lockdown, they have come to their respective villages, and from the village, because the network is there and they are able to do all the operations for the customers sitting in their villages. So that kind of a transformation this technology has provided. But the only thing is,
Right.
since many students are listening to this conversation, there is a sea change in the requirements. What was earlier in IT
Yes.
industry, for example, which was recruiting a lot of people from the institutions, either engineering colleges or MBA schools. Those days, we were doing literally a techno coolie kind of operations. You just take one person. Most of the companies, they used to place them in somewhere in their customer premises, and they used to get that from that phase. They went into BPO, KPO kind of thing. Very rudimentary IT
Right.
services they were doing. So that time, anybody with some degree, with a little bit knowledge on tool knowledge on some programming languages and all that, they used to get jobs. Today, all those jobs are getting automated, right? Unless you know the emerging technologies, the deep insight into that technology with the domain knowledge, only those people can aspire to get a job. Otherwise, and a lot of predictions are also coming, particularly the working from home as a resulted this thing. There could be more virtual jobs. That means one need not have to work for any X company. The jobs will come on the internet to you if you are capable. Whether you have got a degree, a PhD, or MTech, doesn't matter. Whether you have a knowledge to download that to this thing and deliver
Right.
that task to the customers. So that is the kind of change which is happening in this era. So during this change, if you think that I got 99% in BTech and computer science, I'll get a job. No, unless you have the fundamental. I'm telling everybody, back to basic. Go back to your basics: mathematics,
Right.
applied mathematics, algorithms, basic chemistry, math. All these basics are fundamentals for them to survive. So unless they have strong basics, on top of that, some design thinking methodologies, and particularly they should know everybody, whether they are computer science students or non-computer science students. Cyber security is becoming a big opportunity and also a big threat. Everybody, whether they are in the rural areas or farmer, I know a lot of farmers, they lost whatever because of Jandan program. They have now bank accounts and everything is coming to their bank account. Somebody sent some message to them to download, and he downloaded, and malware entered into his phone, and whatever information about his bank passwords and bank account and all that, he was able to do the phishing messages from his email or the phone, and he was able to transfer all the money to elsewhere. So this kind of
Right, sir.
threats are happening in a big way. So opportunities, particularly students who are, whether they are in MBA, whether they are engineering, if they want to get into a job, first of all, the requirements today in the post-COVID, there are humpty number of cyber security jobs. There are big shortage everywhere, all over the globe, including India, because cyber security is required at every phase. Whether you are a pharma company, whether you are a education company, whether you are a doctor in the hospital, everybody should have the cyber security tools, and somebody should be able to help them. Plus, there are a lot of government jobs. Today, the police cannot take any cyber security crime. If somebody goes there, sir, I lost my money, you register this thing. He doesn't know how to really go about it, because they are not trained on the cyber security crimes, how to really face it, how to really bring the justice. So there are a lot of jobs in such sectors. So my request to all the education institutions or all the students, both MBA students as well as technology students, go back to your basics. Fundamentals are very, very important. The domain knowledge is very important. And also you have to pick up some of the emerging technologies, either it's a cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, or data sciences, blockchain technology. These are the emerging technology where there's a huge shortage of this. So if only you concentrate on those things, definitely there's be a lot of opportunities. I wish them all the best.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary. And on that note, the session is set rolling. And so, what do you understand? I mean, I just like to address the participants and the viewers. So, what do you feel that at one hand you need to understand the basics, which is very clear and which is traditionally there, but you have to add on, or as a top up, you have to add on the skill set or the knowledge in the emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, okay, the blockchain technologies, the data tools, dealing with cyber security issues and all that. And he has rightly pointed out that a nationalist bank like SBI doesn't see itself as a bank merely, but it's a technology house. Okay, so it is time to transfer or transform yourself from being a technoculi to a technocrat in the real sense. So thank you, Mr. Chaudhary, on that note. And I just like to go to, you have mentioned about FinTech. Right, so now the concept of FinTech has been a right blend of finance with technology. And FinTech is in the process of automating every financial service and process. So with that, your contribution of FinTech in mind, I like to go to Mr. Rangin Riley for his opening comment. So do you see FinTech as an, Mr. Rangin Riley, you can unmute yourself, please. Thank you, sir. So do you think FinTech, you see FinTech as an innovation, future of money, or you see that there is a sea of social change that FinTech is going to catalyze? What's your opening comment on that?
Dr. Chatterjee, fintech had come into being because banks had been too lazy or too kind of large to kind of be flexible for new products. And banks or large companies have to go through a regulatory process because they have a rule book to follow. So the advent of fintech came because we have to do something faster, maybe something flexible, and something maybe easier, which maybe has not been written in the rule books. That's why fintech came in. Now, fintech are different ways of doing fintech, payment gateway, crowdfunding, or whatever, the different things of. The problem with fintech is that the banks still think that fintech is a competitor to them. So it's not still, if you really want to do a business in fintech, wherever you go to Europe, I have companies in different parts of the world, the banks still think that you are going to take their job away. So it's still not that symbiotic relationship that whether fintech and banks can work together, but it's still kind of working, it's evolving. Now fintech, the problem with this company is that even if you are doing fintech, you have to follow some of the good things which banks follow. Okay, so for example, if we have to flexible, but you cannot take money from a terrorist, or you cannot take money from a bad guy. So there are some good things you have to take from the bank, so that you take those good things. For like a first boy, you take the good things from the first boy, and like again a middle kind of guy who is smarter, you take the jugaad thing from him, and that's why you become a fintech. So this is the way fintechs are changing. They are now learning that okay, they have to take something from the banks and large institutes. They have to be smart enough whatever they're doing, and the fintechs are coming into being. Now fintechs are now being changed into something of decentralized finance. Now even fintech, you see that it's still a central body who does everything. So whenever you are doing, think about whenever you're doing a transaction on an exchange is a central body. When you're storing your stock, your deposit is a central body. And now if somebody hacks the central body, the problem is that your stocks can go away or your money can go away. So what fintechs are doing right now are the advent of decentralized fintech. So what are they doing? So there's no central body as such. It's a decentralized autonomous organization used on blockchain to different smart contracts, which follows the process as per the protocol. You cannot change it. Somebody can't go and do tampering, can't do it out there. So now I'm seeing that banks or large companies are changing into fintech, and fintechs are now trying to become better and then become decentralized. So this is how it is moving along. But I think there's a kind of the handholding of government is still not there, because government doesn't think about, okay, fintech and blockchain decentralization is good enough for India. India doesn't still have equity crowdfunding regulation in place. After COVID, you need a lot of funding. There's no money for the startups. Everybody's closing shop, but there's no equity crowdfunding options out there in India. So still a lot of gap around there. But for the students to be kind of be smart enough, they have to kind of learn three things. So do fintech, do not fintech. Everything is on cloud. So you have to either learn whatever. My software runs on cloud. Okay, so you have to either learn Amazon Web Services or Azure. You have to have a full stack development experience. Probably you have to learn about Angular, Node, and Vue, because that's where the data is kind of created, screens are made and given to the users, and then smart contract or blockchain is only a small part of it. So when you build the software, 20% is only blockchain or Ethereum, not more than that. So we have to know maybe at least of the three stacks: the cloud, the mean stack or the full stack, and the blockchain. You have to at least know two of them to become kind of valuable. You don't have to learn maybe business and all those things. Those are very complex. Even after 20 years, I failed understanding businesses. But at least you have technology firm background of these three. If you good in two, then you'll probably have a good chance of getting jobs.
Yeah, that's a great hint for the students. So I think Rairi has already an evangelist in the area of decentralized investment bank based on blockchain, and that's what his experience is speaking over here. So he has given a right direction to the students that try to understand basics, as Mr. Chaudhary has said, and again Mr. Rangini is trying to emphasize upon that based on the, over and above these basics, you have to master the technology aspects like cloud computing, okay, the blockchain technology. So awareness of this technology is very essential to make a career in finance when we are talking about the blend of finance and technology in the present scenario. So thank you, Mr. Lairi, for that opening comment. Now I'd like to go to Mr. Srikanth. So if you can unmute yourself, sir, Mr. Srikanth. So
yes, Dr. Chatterjee, yes.
Yeah. Right. So we just heard that there are so many technologies pervading into the scene. And I was just talking about in my opening remark that is the education sector is lining up with this career demands. Okay, so you are a preacher of education 5.0. The other day I was just listening to one of your address. Okay, so how do you predict what are the transformations you feel are required in the financial education sector, let us say under education 5.0, which can really address the need of the hour, that is both basics as well as technology? How do you think the curriculum has to be shaped by the various universities, and how education has to be imparted to really generate the students or the graduates with the right skill set to make a place in the financial world? Mr. Srikanth, please.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Chatterjee, for this opportunity, and ABP Group. Good afternoon to all the panelists, lead panelists, and the guests over here. So, yeah, I basically, yes, Education 5.0 is one arena where, we have been pushing in Cube, Soil, School of Innovation and Leadership. We've been stressing more on, a large-scale transformation in terms of the professional education and professional preparation, the vocational preparation for the jobs as well as, for the career front. Could be to get into startups or even, choose the job-based market, domestic as well as in the global arena. So one thing is very clear from what, you've mentioned earlier about, degree or no degree option. Should they consider, a degree to have, is it mandatory to have a degree or no? It's an ambiguity, there is some ambiguity over there. And when it comes to, should we master, my focus will be specific to fintech for today, rather than, on very generic terms. So finance, management, economics, and accounting, yes, these were part of financial careers earlier, last 3 decades or 4 decades, or even before that. But as information technology took over and we heard about the friction, and then the Pandora box opened, the kind of opportunities that really popped out, but like even unimaginable. Now we have the intelligent technologies coming into picture. That's the, we call it as artificial intelligence, or that robotic process automation. And we have all those technology elements getting embedded into the real banking or the financial institutions, could be insurance. And as Jay sir was mentioning, this is a horizontal. Finance was a horizontal. Technology, information technology is a horizontal. Now it's an amalgamation of finance and technology together,
Right.
which is now targeting every vertical, be it education, be it retail, be it pharma, life sciences, doesn't matter. Every sector, every industry is now basically touched with this digital financial component. So it's no more just a financial component, it's a digital finance, or the fintech, what we term here. And we have millions of opportunities here in terms of jobs, careers, and then products that can be actually carved and which can be impregnated into these existing companies, organizations, and our systems as a whole. Could be the regulatory to the corporate, as well as the common man's life, as the Gendan and other examples what sir was giving. And also we have such kind of an opportunity. And here I think in the professional arena, we have syllabuses which are giving real good knowledge on the building blocks of the particular discipline, a single discipline. And we do have subjects, which are covering few aspects of management, of course, technology elements and all. But how do we amalgamate them? How do we convert them into an experience?
That's the challenge,
Which
right.
could be a product or could be a business model. Like one of the classic example what Jay was mentioning about, IITians coming up with a model where there is a zero interest rate on, the consumer electronics purchase and all. This is, we have to recommend, or it's recommended that the students or the working professionals get into small time problem solving exercises. We term it as venture-based learning, is the mantra going forward for the 21st century, where human evolution in terms of the professional aspects and all, it's a mix of technology, your innovation, management, and your entrepreneurial. That's specific to your, the specific industry as such. Okay, we need all those frameworks together put into a solution. And this can happen only when you get involved in problem solving. There are millions of problem statements, or thousands of problem statements that students can work upon while they're at the college level. Just create a small cooperative society within the college, just with one problem statement. If they can start off within their campuses, they try to reach out to the nearby banks, or they try to get in touch with the regulatory authorities. They try to get in touch with the technology resources within the college as well as outside. And in that process, right, maybe 1 or 2 years, basically within the campus itself, they can learn how all these aspects are required and how they are put together for a product or a venture evolution, right? And this is what they do in the real job scenario. They don't do anything different from that. And this has to be practiced. Just listening to the classrooms, sessions is enough. Like they get the information, there is information overload for everyone, the iOS, okay, fine, the information overload syndrome. But speaking versus doing, people will understand only when they start getting into problem solving. And my strong recommendation for any institution as well as individual, be it at the corporate level or somebody who's attending the college, get into problem solving. And institutions like ABP education, like SOIL, School of Innovation and Leadership,
Right.
what we floated, we are all ready to help. We have such a huge pool of talent who needs mentorship there. It doesn't happen just by knowing the technology or just knowing few financial terms or few subjects and all. You need mentorship there. Approach people. We have wonderful platforms like LinkedIn. Reach out to people and get into the problem solving exercise. And this problem solving should be part of every discipline now, where the multidisciplinary aspects will evolve outside your, outside the real, the syllabus which is framed. Not everything can be implanted into the syllabus. It's impossible for them. They'll end up in 10 or 20-year program. It's impossible. So these micro PhD kind of programs is what I'm referring to. Got to get into problem solving, get exposed to technologies, frameworks outside your syllabus. Just convert them into a solution. Don't worry about the commerciality of the solution. Just apply it. And that is where we learn, okay, this is what is the thing. And that will improve your problem solving capabilities, your critical thinking capabilities, your team communication, collaboration, all the essential 21st century skills that, World Economic Forum and all the, institutions today, or the industry is really shouting, hey, this is what is missing in the workforce. This will get implanted into everyone. So this is what I would strongly recommend. So.
That's a great, a great piece of, 360-degree view, which I think will help the education is, first of all, the learners will largely depend upon how the education is framed the curriculum. So you have rightly pointed out that experiential learning to problem solving, venture ideation, and more importantly, the aspect which you touched upon, that approach the mentors. Because listening directly from the horse's mouth matters. So we have a rich resource, and with industry and players like ABP Education creating such platforms. And of course, we have now presently around 150 plus participants, and that's a good news. And, and more are there in the Facebook, right? So naturally, students or the aspirants are interested to listen to the mentors. So they are listening to the mentors and they are learning, and this is really helping their careers. Thank you, Mr. Srikanth. I will come back to you again during the course of the session. So I'd just like to go to Mr. Vishal. So I think, so Mr. Vishal, are you available?
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Chatterjee.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, welcome. So you joined a bit late, whatever, but you have been listening to this discussion, right? So the aspects what we are touching upon is that what are the career demands for in the present scenario, how to meet those career demands, okay, and how the industry is changing, how the industry is evolving. Let us say we have now mobile banking, we are talking about cryptocurrency, we are talking about investment banking, we are talking about personalized banking apps, and there are so many things. And blockchain technology has emerged as one of the important, parameter which is going to stay or which is going to make a cut of its own. Now, I'd just like to put the question that given these so many technologies which is pervading the world of finance and all, do you feel that there is a caution in that what will happen to the skill set of the wealth advisor? Will the wealth advisors lose their need, or is that, or all these technologies that are coming into picture, can they substitute the skill set associated with the wealth advisor? So your comments on that.
Sure, Mr. Chatterjee. Thank you. Thanks to ABP, and I think we have a very good audience here. I think just to answer, I think that there are two parts to the answer that I would like to propose. The first one is, I think, I graduated in 1998, 20 years, and typically that's we term as a generation, generation shift sort of thing. 20 years, 25 years is a timeline, right? But if you actually look at the companies that have been growing and the companies that have been scaling, the time required to scale to, let's say, 1 million users or 1 billion users, whatever is the number that we take, in the last, I would say 5 to 7 years, I think that number has been coming down drastically, and that's primarily due to what Mr. Chaudhary highlighted. I think it's the technology, it's TAM, a lot of this thing, everything coming together, right? But I think there's a lot of changes in the way people are now looking at. So with the digital revolution that we have, I think the definition is itself changing. I think initially 1 million used to be a good number. Now I think maybe 100 million is what people are looking at, right? Because I think the scale at which we are, the cost of scaling is actually coming down with the way we are moving. So I think the point that you asked on the question on the technology and what's happening to the skill set of technologies. I think you need to refresh yourself every 3 to 4 years or 3 to 5 years. That's a rap pace at which things are changing at this point. And whether it's wealth advisor, whether it's banking, or you take any profession, I think essentially everyone needs to now caught up with technology. I think they have to use technology as a means to their end, and not as an as a byproduct. It is all pervasive. I think whether we take any segment, whether it is uh, the niche segment, or the bottom of the segment, I think everyone is now comfortable with technology, and they have to get comfortable and start using technology in a way where you can actually reduce your cost of services. So if you take the wealth advisor as an example, I remember like 15 years back, they used to come to me personally, talk about all the products that they have to offer, and take my details and go back and come back with the best options for me, maybe a week later. I think a lot of these things now can be done maybe in half an hour time with technology, right? So that's a pace at which things have changed, and that applies to every product. So the person who was selling the insurance in 15 years back, or the wealth advisor, used to be a person who used to have his strengths in relationships. But today, I think he cannot. I mean, while he needs to have the relationships, he needs to build the relationships. But the way he builds a relationship has to be very, very different. I think he has to use a lot more technology, a lot more social media, and also I think the way he has to add value to the offerings. It's just not about knowing what are the products. It's also about which is the best product suited, and that information is very readily available today. So if I go to Google
Right.
and look at any of the websites, I can get it. So there is a lot more value addition that the person who is selling me the wealth advisory has to do at this point. And I think this we have seen this shift across in every profession, whether it is banking, wealth advisory. You take any profession. I think the technology has taken. I think one thing that I want to add to the students, especially
Sure.
who are adding, I think Chaudhary ji really nailed it when he said, we need people with a lot of expertise, and for me that comes with algorithm skills. If people are
Right.
very good on algorithms, I think they will become developers who would be valued in the system. And all the technologies that we talk, whether it is AI, ML, blockchain, APIs, I think a lot of them need people who are very good at algorithms, who have that basic algorithm skills. And then depending on the area that you have been working on, you can definitely pick up the other skills. Bottom line, I think we also asked what are the courses that we needs to be done. I think
Right.
that's a key skill set that we need, and obviously the exposure that people can come and they know. I think the information is available, and if they have that attitude to go and explore, I think they will anyway be valued in the industry. Just one last
Yeah.
point. I think I
Sure.
would like to add. Today, skill is what matters, not experience. You can be uh, a future out of college, but if you're skilled, and if you show that attitude and aptitude, uh, that takes you a long way in the industry.
Yeah, right. So with this brief interaction at the very first end with the opening comments, so it is very clear now that yes, technology has pervaded into the financial world. So technology is really changing the career in finance. But what the panelists are opining upon, that you cannot forget your basics. You have to master your basics. Then try to develop the algorithm skills. Okay, you need to have a touch of emotional quotient, because ultimately you are dealing with a group of customers, and you are trying to the technology which you are trying to uh, utilize to serve ultimately the society and the digitally minded customers. So that emotional quotient part has to be there, and the curriculum has to have a reshape in terms of the imbibing the latest developments in the technology, like the finance, accounting, management, and economics. has to be added on with the information technology concepts, the recent advancements, let us say artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain technology, and many other enhanced tools. Okay, so this is very clear now that technology was there, is there, and will be there, whatever may be the area or the vertical is, and finance is one of them. And we have to, in today's world, just to propel the wheel, we need to master the certain skill sets, and these are very essential. As rightly pointed out by Mr. Vishal, the skill set is very important. So developing the right skill set to venture into the career path, whatever path it is, whether it is engineering or finance or media, whatever. So developing the right skill set is very essential. Okay, so with that, I like to again go to Mr. Chaudhary, sir. Mr. Chaudhary?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so as we come out, that technologies are in place, they are being slowly getting into the world of finance, they are being implemented. Now, what is your concern? Do you have any concern with the implementations of the technologies? Do you feel that there has to be a regulatory technology by the side so that it can really set the mandates, it can navigate the complex world of that the technology is bringing forth? You are pioneered in various formulation of various standards in India, standards in the blockchain technology to be particular. So what is your take on this? The technology is coming into picture at one side, and the complexity is, increasing multiple. Is there a
Yeah.
necessity of RegTech and how to go for it? Yes, your call, please.
Thank you. Uh, my personal view, see, nobody can regulate the technologies which are coming. The technologies are changing so fast. I don't think any government or any organization can regulate the changes which are happening in the technology. But there are some fundamental technologies, like, for example, blockchain. For a
Right.
common man to understand whether blockchain is applicable, not applicable, which blockchain, there are so many versions of the blockchain. Version I have to take, which model of blockchain I need to this thing. So they're a bit confused on use of blockchain technology. That's where we thought that having a standard, international standard on blockchain standards under the ISO banner, and also Bureau of Indian Standards also going to release the same kind of standards. So with that, what happens is for a common man, okay, this is the standard which is internationally this thing. If I build some applications, there are a lot of users will be there because millions and millions of people are using these standards, and I can easily roll out my application. Whereas if you adopt a particular technology and a particular version of a blockchain, we don't know whether that version will be there next 6 months or 1 year. It may die. Then what will happen to all my whatever I produce? So these kind of issues are coming up, particularly in blockchain. That's where the some kind of international global standards are required, particularly smart documents and things like that, where every government can think of adapting those global standards. Then even for the startup companies who wants to develop various applications, if they say we are compliant to these international ISO standards of the blockchain, then it is easy for him to sell his solution or product. That's the reason why sometimes regulation is required for some of the fundamental tech, because blockchain is again fundamentally bringing new changes in the technology. It is totally bringing a revolutionary kind of changes. For such changes, definitely standards are required. Otherwise, generally, the technology changes. I don't think regulators can regulate them the way they want to regulate. It's a free flowing. If somebody comes with an innovative idea, bringing new technology, that technology is liked by many people. I think that's how the technologies, as somebody was telling, the life cycles of these technologies, not even 6 months in some of the technologies. They come, they'll be there for 6 months, afterwards they may die. So within the 6 months, you have to understand and learn and implement. Afterwards, we don't know what's going to happen. You may have to pick up new technology. That's how the changes are coming. That's the reason why I mentioned to particularly students, because if they think like earlier 10, 20 years in IT industry, they're just knowing some ERP, SAP, or some Java kind of a tool-based learning. They used to get jobs. Today, the technologies are changing so fast. So that's the reason why I and Vishal, both of us telling, you need to have the basics properly. The algorithms, what you mentioned, the algorithms are very important. Particularly, most of the students are in West Bengal area. You are actually having a very good institution. ISI is there, Indian Statistical Institution, where all the statistical algorithms, how to use the data sets, data patterns, how to read the data properly, and again come with the new algorithms, this thing. So fundamentals are very, very important. And Google is there for any technology. People even in the rural areas. In fact, I was guiding one farmer's son who just finished his 12th grade. Now he is learned cybersecurity on his own because he's interested in ethical hacking and all that. This thing, I asked him, well, where did you learn? Sir, there are a lot of YouTube lectures. This thing, I went through that and I'm able to learn all these things. So when the internet is like a equilibrium education, these technologies, they come and go, and those things, when a small kid is picking up these new technologies. But what is more important, like any big building, foundation is has to be very strong. The foundation is all these basics, basic physics, basic mathematics, basic statistics, all these things are absolutely required. On top of that, they should have the design thinking in their mind. I mean, they cannot think otherwise unless they have applied the design thinking methodologies, innovative way of thinking about coming out with a new solution using new algorithm.
Right.
I think that's what is required for any student to survive and succeed. Because all the days, I mean, we are just, I mean, I am from IIT. I used to get some job because I am from IIT. Today, I don't think people will get just because you are from IIT. Who cares? Unless you have the relevant technology which is useful for me, then probably will hire you. People are hiring. For example, Joho Corporation is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. They take people 10th class or intermediate people, that too from rural background. And they say
Right.
that the people who are urban kids who are going through air-conditioned buses, air-conditioned classroom, air-conditioned, these minds are all conditioned. So we don't want conditioned mindset people. We want rural people because every day they have to struggle for getting 2 square meal a day. So that is a kind of a big shift is happening. So my advice to the students is, I mean, they have to be strong in the foundation skills. On top of that, whatever the area of technology they choose, there are a lot of material is available on the internet, and they can become expert in no time.
Right. So that's the take of Chaudhary said that technology will come and go because it is changing very rapidly. But if a student is very strong with the basics, then whatever technology in his career he encounters, he will be likely to adopt to that. Okay, so on that note, I like to go to Mr. Rangin again from the participants. So, Mr. Rangin, if you can please unmute yourself, right? So now see the students over here, they are slowly concluding that yes, along with the basics, we need to develop the skill set of the technology and all. So let me take the example of a blockchain technology. Now, what's the present scenario? So what we understand that there are certain international banks and all, they are firmly bullish on that. But in the Indian context, are we ready for the blockchain or have it been adopted? So what is your thought between the collaboration between banks and let us say fintech? So what is the current status so that the students get apprised of the current status and accordingly they can finalize? So what is your take on that between the collaboration between fintech and banks, the blockchain technology? What is the adoption rate in India presently?
Sir, let me be very frank. So there are two worlds of blockchain. Okay, one world of blockchain is the crypto side of it, where there is a lot of work. So if you are good in Ethereum, you know smart contracts, you know how to kind of build security tokens, so for example, or kind of smart crowd kind of contracts. So there are projects for you. The problem is that those kind of projects are not kind of done in the real world of maybe think about a banking blockchain software which is doing remittance. So those are different. But so the two worlds. The first world, where the crypto world, is a lot of projects. So if somebody is good in Ethereum, smart contracts, he can get a lot of work. Okay, and they're valued also out there. The other side of it is the real world of blockchain. So where you are doing a trade finance. Okay, you are doing something on maybe certificate verification. You are doing something remittances. So all of these are still in a very early stage. The reason being is that the blockchain, to work properly, it has to be kind of a multi-node structure. So where you have millions of nodes which will do the decentralization and be the kind of tamper-proofing of that. Now, when you do it for a bank or do it for a kind of a large company, they are very worried that they cannot go into that public kind of network or network where you have 30 or 40 nodes. You have to do it through 6 nodes or 4 nodes. And whenever you have a 4-node kind of blockchain, that's not blockchain. That's a distributed system. Rather than a central system, that's a distributed system. So these kind of projects are being done more as a kind of proof of concepts. None of them has come into life. Very less. If you have done 100 projects, there are only around 5 projects that come into life. 95 projects are all on the POC stage, and they are not moving to life. So we have to be we have to be smart enough. So you never know what technology is going to be. There is blockchain, it's a hyperledger, Ethereum, doesn't matter. It's a decentralized app. So you have to know what is decentralization, how can you build application decentralization. That can be any technology, doesn't matter, blockchain or Ethereum or hyperledger, doesn't matter. But the other side of it, you have to do something and you have to show it into a environment which is integrated with blockchain. So you have to know the integration of it. So that's why I'm coming again and again. Blockchain is small part of it. If you have to really use the blockchain in the real world, you have to know the actual technology of the normal JavaScript, Web3 development, so that you can actually do it and then show it to the world. So so from a student perspective, be smart enough, learn blockchain, maybe spread a bit, because you may get a project in Hyperledger, you may get a project in Ethereum, but be very strong on the integration side of it so that you can always get a job on both sides.
Right. So that is a part of the, I mean, it's a great way to conclude. So blockchain or hyperledger, whatever technology is, so we are coming back to the basics, learn the algorithms, whether JavaScript and all. So ultimately, if you are capable and you develop this skill set, then all these decentralization tools that we have been talking about, blockchain and etc., so that you can deal with. So I'll not, without waste time, because there are participants over here who has, I can see, have posted certain questions. So I will request the panelists if we can have them taking up the questions. So one of the questions that is coming up, that is flashing on my screen. Sir, in an industry which is so highly regulated, is there any hope of fintech growth independently possible? So can I request Mr. Vishal to, if he can share his views on this? The question I'll repeat for you.
Yep.
The industry is highly regulated. So is there any hope of fintech growth independently possible?
So I think
What is your take on that?
yes, this is highly regulated industry, because it's for money and money of everyone in the country. So it needs to be regulated. Fintech can, I think, play an independent role, but that will more be on on ancillary services without handling the money. So I think my view is that, I think, at least in India and majority of the countries where we have seen, except the Bitcoin and cryptos, I think the money, holding the money is with the banks and with the financial licensed entities. I think where the fintechs are playing a very supportive role is more on the distribution and solving some of the challenges for the banks. There are challenges where banks cannot reach to the lot of poor people, to a lot of rural areas in the country. So the distribution challenges is where we have seen a very significant role played by the fintechs. Also, I think if you also look at the way, I think they have where fintechs have been able to play a very good role, I think the panel talked about is also on the catching some of these ideas, and bringing some value addition to the end consumers, So instead of the customers going to the banks, I think they have brought the services, financial services, to the doorstep of the consumer. So we have seen a lot of those use cases coming along where it makes it that much simple. You don't have to, apply leave and go and get your financial needs done. You can today do it on your phone and maybe at your home, and that has been possible due to various reasons. But I think predominantly fintechs playing a very, very aggressive role in that. But yeah, I think fintechs getting into the banking will be a challenge without regulations.
Right. So I think the answer to the question is like this. It goes like this. I mean, fintech is independently growth is possible, but regulations are a must. Right. So
So,
the
sir,
next question I'll take up.
I have a viewpoint, sir. One
Yeah,
viewpoint is that
please, Mr. Rangi.
so a lot of these different countries have sandboxes. So Mr. Vishal would know about it very well. So the RBI sandbox is very new. Okay, so whenever you have to do kind of a new technology in a regulated environment who have never done regulation, so you have to build a sandbox. You ask this guy who is the new technology fintech guy to handhold him through the sandbox so that he doesn't fail out there, and then taking out the sandbox to a full license. So he's a small license holder and then it goes to a larger license. So that has to be really, it has to kind of both has to work together. It has to be a proper sandbox and proper handholding of the fintech.
Right. So that can only see the growth of the fintech as an independent.
I think there have been some good steps
commodity.
taken on that. So RBI is coming up with the regulatory sandbox. There's the capital markets, which is SEBI has come up. The insurance IRDA has come up with its own sandbox. So I think we are taking the right steps in those directions. But yeah, that's a good starting point. And I think that would be more focused on relaxation of certain regulations and see if it makes sense.
Right. Right. So I just take up the next question. So the question goes like this: that given the pandemic situation and there is an economic, slowdown. So I'll just like to request Mr. Shrikant if he can answer this question. I mean, given this pandemic situation, there is economic slowdown, and the candidate who is posing this question is a female electrical engineer, and she is interested in the career path into finance.
Okay.
So her question is that how to decide upon that post-pandemic, what will be the situation? So how to decide upon that, which part of finance can help me to build my career? So the question goes in that manner. I hope I'm clear to you with the question.
Which part of finance an electrical engineering student can actually think about to get into in terms of the career transition as such, right?
Yeah, in the post-pandemic situation.
I mean, the landscape is huge here, but yes, as I was mentioning, right, doesn't matter if anyone is from electrical engineering or, chemical engineering or maybe from whatever their discipline is. We are all power consumers of apps like Paytm and banking applications. Every your Amazon Pay or the Uber or the Ola, when we're using, we have those digital wallets and everything in there. So how you zero down on what could be a feasible option for me? My take would be try to observe. Okay, you've been a power consumer so far. As I mentioned, get into problem solving. And this will give you a career clarity on which direction to choose. No single person can tell you, about your innate capabilities of what really you can absorb and which direction you can travel fast. And even, our panelists were mentioning about the shelf life of these technologies or the skill sets. The cluster of skills, again, it's not an individual skill. Cluster skill is hardly 6 months to max 2 years. So here, which direction to choose or which particular area to choose is, there is ransomware attacks. We hear about ransomware attacks. Maybe you can start exploring, do a small case study over there with few friends And then, okay, zero down, okay, what it really takes to create a solution which can either sense it or block it or maybe report it. Now, these are something which people can explore, and which will give them option, options in the direction of career. Again, probably you can try creating some kind of, the data privacy or the KYC, what we deal with every day. KYC is something like, one of our panelists was also mentioning a good customer or versus a bad customer. You can't borrow money from bad people, you get into the trouble. That is where KYC comes into picture. But what exactly is KYC? Try to dig deep into them. That becomes a subject for anyone. And from there, a lot of options will open, and you'll be in a position to self-evaluate and self-explore. And, of course, with some interaction with the mentors, you'll be able to identify the right direction. It's not like, earlier case, okay, learn SAP or learn .NET or Java, you get a career. No. Now, the career options will open, only when you get into some small time exercises, and then, there'll be more clarity. Your clouds will open. Until then, it's more like a vague idea. Anybody can give, any seasoned mentor can just tell you, okay, this could be a good start off, like blockchain or, some other technology on that front. Or you can start off with APIs with something like MuleSoft, or you can start off with an AI-based bot to sense, this ransomware or some kind of, cyber attack into your bank accounts or into your credit cards, whatever it is. But the point here is to zero down on an option or a career option. You have to make sure, get involved, do some case studies. And from there, I would, say like, you'll get to know more about it, like the Ekalavya model, and then the Gurukul model will follow the Ekalavya model. First, get into the Ekalavya model, explore by yourself, do some case study, look at what's happening around you, and then look for those Gurukul centers, or the places where, yes, you are getting into a full-time grooming activity, and that will really fetch your career in no time. 3 to 6 months, you get ultimate clarity, irrespective of being from electrical engineering or chemical engineering, or even a typical science background or arts background as well.
That's great. So it is nicely pointed out that we need to focus from the Ekalavya model to the Gurukul model. So a lot of emphasis has to be on the self-motivation, self-doing, learning by doing, all those aspects. And slowly, once you get into the practice of doing, let us say, certain case studies, building up a pilot startup, then as a result of which you slowly learn, and then you get into the real grooming sessions. And those grooming sessions are really going to show you the path ahead. Technology will change, but the basics and the skills will remain.
Yeah, the basics as well as
try to highlight upon.
The gap finding, need finding, problem finding is where it all begins with. And that happens in the Ekalavya model. You don't have to really go and part of your college curriculums and all. And of course, then you get into the lab-based exercise. And then lab-based exercise will really give more understanding and clarity. And then, nobody has to really guide you. Okay, I have like 10 opportunities in front of me, and you'll get offer letters in front of you. Nobody has to really search a job for you.
Right. Thank you. So I'll come back to Chaudhary sir. So there is a question, addressed to Chaudhary sir. In fact, Chaudhary sir. Hello, Chaudhary sir. Am I audible? Chaudhary sir.
Yes, you're audible.
Your voice was breaking, so maybe you can speak a little louder.
Yeah. So, government is from India. A particular student who is posing this question, the student is studying blockchain engineering. So given the government intentions, the government outlook on the blockchain technology, and the students studying blockchain engineering, so what is the future? Is there any risk component attached by pursuing this technology, that is blockchain engineering, in the path of your career?
Uh, Actually, my answer to that is there is no risk to any technology if they learn properly the use of the technology, where the technologies are properly applicable. And blockchain now it is in the very beginning stage in the entire. For example, various governments for smart documents. For example, Telangana government has implemented blockchain 2-3 applications. So they're all working fine, and some of the aqua farmers in the state of Andhra Pradesh, they implemented blockchain technology for exporting shrimp, this thing to countries like Japan and all that, this thing. So, and also education, the degree certificates, all these things are happening, but they are on the beginning stage of implementation of the blockchain. And the blockchain as a technology itself is actually maturing day by day. We are seeing a lot of difference between how blockchain technology was about 5 years back and what it is today. Our coronavirus is mutating day by day. So this technology is also mutating and adding new features into this. So definitely they are strong in the technology, and where the blockchain is applicable, where the blockchain is not going to be applicable, even that consulting area also is a big opportunity. Many people, they don't know whether blockchain is applicable for this or a regular database application is sufficient. So they should have that kind of a 360-degree approach. Just, they should not look at only from one angle and learn only those things. Then it will be difficult for them to survive. They should have a holistic knowledge, and they should be able to guide their prospective customers or wherever they're working, whether blockchain, first of all, fundamentally is applicable in that area, unless they have the entire aspect of other technologies, whether the blockchain is good or database technology is good or some other simple Java-based application is good enough. To that extent, they should have the knowledge. Then they'll be able to definitely get a lot of job opportunities. And I wish them all the success.
Yeah, thank you. So I hope that question has been amply answered. So I'll just go to Rangin sir again. So there is a question to cryptocurrency. So what are your take on the issues in consumer acceptance of cryptocurrency? And the question is why it is not picking up?
Cryptocurrency. Yeah, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead, sir.
Yes. So cryptocurrency is valued only when you can sell it. Okay, so when it's a currency. So in India, you don't have any don't have much of vendors who will take a cryptocurrency and give you services. You want to buy an iPhone, you cannot do it. So there are two things. One is that as a cryptocurrency, if you're getting, you have to know whether you have got it through whether it's a taxable. Okay, so government is very worried that cryptocurrency, if it's earning, it should be taxable, which is right. And then people have that bad habit of not showing this as a kind of earning and use it somewhere else. So government is thinking about those lines. We, as a kind of holder of cryptocurrency, if you're holding at all, you have to think about, okay, disclose it if need be, so that there's no problem at all. And the more options opens up whenever you want to use the cryptocurrency to buy something. If you're in US or if you're in other parts of the world, in Europe, you can always buy something very easily with cryptocurrency. But India, you cannot do it. India, there are very, very small options for using cryptocurrency. So it depends upon the place where you are staying or the ecosystem where you are living. If you're in an ecosystem which kind of thinks about money, as rupees, then you cannot use cryptocurrency as such.
Right. So it all depends upon the ecosystem where you are living. So the whether the cryptocurrency or any other technology for that will take out or will go to the real market or not, that depends upon how it is being accepted in the given scenario at the given place. Okay. So now I like to pick up a question on crowdfunding, and I like to request Mr. Vishal. Mr. Vishal.
Yes, Mr. Chatterjee.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Mr. Vishal?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So the question is, is legal or not? So how to legalize it and all that aspects.
Sorry, I missed the question. Your voice
Yeah.
was breaking up.
Yeah.
Can you
So,
repeat?
so
Dr.
just
Chatterjee, somehow your voice is breaking. We're not able to hear properly. I don't know, maybe you're at a zone where the signal strengths are low.
yeah. So I'm trying to get best place. So is it audible?
Yeah, it is. But
Now,
Audible now?
Yep.
yeah.
Now it's better. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a question related to crowdfunding. So
Yes.
what are the types and methods to generate crowdfunding, and what are the legality issues with crowdfunding?
Uh, I think on the crowdfunding, essentially, it's I think it's very early stages, at least in India at this point, because we don't have mechanisms to track who has funded what and how do we. I mean, it's not uh, institutionalized at this point. Where it's more of done at a more of a personal level, and the angel funding that is done, it's not completely institutionalized. So the crowdfunding, I would say, is done at a very early stage of the company, and hasn't taken off that well. I think we would have more as the regulation has come. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on the crowdfunding in terms of legalization and the regulations and who can invest. A lot of those things are still work in progress at this point, Chatterjee.
Yeah, thank you. So I'd like to come to Mr. Srikanth.
Yes. Yes, Dr. Chatterjee.
So how about evolving a fintech startup in the Indian ecosystem? So what's your take on that? How to come up
Fintechs.
with a fintech startup in the context of Indian ecosystem?
Yeah, and that's a very good question, and that in this post-COVID or COVID crisis, where we all hear about the economy is going down and we need to revive the economies as such and all. So, I mean, like the first step, like we heard about design thinking, adopting design thinking, and into the problem solving from Jay Garu and even other panelists. So we can't really zero down to this is the problem or directly just based on the sense and all. We need some validation there. That is where we should probably start off with any team, whoever is really pointing towards a startup or a product which can serve a local or a global market as such. The first and foremost thing is the gap finding, which happens with large scale empathizing. Now we need to understand the concept of empathizing, get the design mindset. It's not like the typical operational job where you go do this kind of a job and all. So we need to start thinking as if nothing existed before, from scratch, and start observing the market, large scale observation. What is happening around, in the rest of the world? Can we adopt this to, the local market or the target market that we are actually envisioning or, looking at? And we need to talk to the customer segment, identify the customer segments, the possible customer segments at least. Talk to them even before we get into the prototyping and all. Take out this concept to the the target customers. Talk to them. Do some kind of interviews, one-on-one, or maybe attend some, organize some sessions. We do this at Soil, so part of our fintech labs and all. So I'm giving what happens within the fintech labs at Soil and even the other labs within the Soil. So we make the students actually talk to people, identify the gaps, and then narrow down the divergent inputs. Then narrow down, okay, these are the problems or these are the possible areas where the friction is, where the gap is. Because if we are not able to think about a market-centric solution, which is the need of the hour, there is no point that your startup is really going to sell and people will buy it, right? So how do we derive to that market-centric solution or a customer-centric solution? Is by reaching out to the target customers at the idea stage itself. then zero down, and then come up with this lean, prototyping, throw it into the market again, get some feedbacks, maybe, target a small territory, maybe to begin with, and then push it to the market. You don't have to have investor for that. You don't have to really work out on, few millions of dollars of investment. It all can happen within like few, 5-digit to 6-digit figure. And this can even be funded from the pocket money as well. And those who are already in the industry, already in the fintech space, as employees and all, it's like a cakewalk for them to actually do the prototyping. But what to prototype is the most important thing, the gap finding. What to prototype, if you can really crack it, that is where all your technology skills, all your project management skills, product management skills will be fruitful. But that is where design thinking comes into picture. You have to observe the market. You have to really narrow down, okay, this is the need of the hour in this specific market. Okay. And then once you conclude to that point, that is when your technology skills or product skills or whatever, marketing skills will, reap the results. So for anyone who's planning to push or thinking about, coming up with a startup, an innovative product and a business model around it, first get into this, gap finding exercise, need finding exercise. Religiously adopt design thinking, and, get into that kind of venture-based learning. Now, we don't have to know the exact gap. Even if we think or a sense of a gap, validate, okay, if this is a need or not. It's not just don't blindly, it's not just going blindly by the experience and all. Sometimes, or most of the times, it failed. So this is what was adopted in the Silicon Valley and other major innovation hubs in the last 2 or 3 decades, where we see their economy, I say just the California economy is more than India GDP put together, because they religiously follow these kind of practices. And it's high time that now we get into such kind of practices, and where we can revive the economy in no time with the right startups or the products which can serve the global market, not just the domestic market. Because fintech is a horizontal and everyone needs it. All the 200 plus countries, they are our consumers, and just aligning to the right problem statement will be the first step towards floating such kind of a large scale economy that we can target.
Yeah. So identifying the gap and addressing the gap sensibly. These are the two key things.
Correct gap, right gap.
Yeah. So these are the two things for a very much necessary to come up with a startup. So we are coming to an end, and many questions are in my question answer box, but I think many of them will remain unanswered. But some of the questions are just to filter out, because they have more or less the same thing that is being asked repeatedly. So, but it was overall a great participation from the student sides, and obviously there has been, you can just see at the chat box. So there are very appreciable comments from the participants regarding the esteemed panelists who are present over here. So just to quickly round up the session, so if I can just go for a closing comment from starting from Chaudhary sir and each and every member, that what do you think is ahead in the job scenario? Because ultimately, when a student, floats into a career in finance, then he can either or she can go for a startup, as hinted out by Mr. Srikanth. And there are another sector, like different sectors where there are jobs. So how a student will approach these two areas, let us say the startups and the jobs, and this will be the common question for all. And I just like to have the closing comments from each and every member, starting with Chaudhary sir.
Yeah, see, that's a very important question, particularly for the students' point of view. My take is all the conventional jobs are going to disappear today, or maybe 6 months or 1 year down the line, because of the heavy automation and a lot of things are happening in the technology which are going to make those conventional jobs disappear, because of not because they don't like to create the jobs, because of the productivity enhancements. If they have to survive as a business, they have to implement such tools, otherwise they can't survive as a fundamentally as a business entity. But the good news is the lot more new jobs in the emerging technologies are happening at a very exponential rate, And today there are a lot of job openings in those technologies. So if the students can pick up those new emerging technologies, learn them properly, I think there's going to be huge demand for them. They don't have to worry about even layoffs in a company and all that, but they have to choose which are those emerging technology which are going to fundamentally come into the market in the next 6 months or 1 year. Let them pick up those things and get the proper expertise, and definitely they'll be able to succeed.
Thank you. I'll just like to go to Mr. Rangin for his closing remarks.
So students has a great advantage that they're still students, so they don't have to really earn to kind of survive. So even if this is a problem, it's just a bleed for you guys. So you have time to kind of update yourself. Do two things. One is that if you get experience, it can be not technology. Technology doesn't matter. Try to get the experience to kind of know how the job market or the companies operate, because now getting a small internship is also very tough now. While you do that, try to kind of go to so there are a lot of those online kind of training courses which are free. Try to go through 5-7 courses, find which is your liking, and then you go deep down, like the panelist said. So you have a great advantage. You're not working. You have the time to kind of update yourself and take advantage of it. Others are not that advantageous because they're already in the job and they've lost their jobs, which you have not. So take advantage and move fast.
Right. So utilization of the present time. Mr. Srikanth, please, for your comments.
Yeah. So like ultimately, the conventional thinking or conventional business models, conventional, the talent, will definitely perish in no time. So it's time for people to actually venture into, the action-based learning, continuous implementation, and change the mindset from job seeker to job creator. Even if it's for one person job, if you can create a job for yourself, that is more than enough. You have a lot of avenues there. And yes, ultimately, our mantra as always is venture-based learning and get soiled. So that's the only way we learn. And even if you're a working professional or a student, don't worry about getting into paid internships and all. Get into some kind of opportunity where you can really learn, gain experience. That will fetch you a job, a career with them or any other organization. If you don't have the skill, as Mr. Vishal has mentioned, and Dr. Rangin was mentioning, right? So you don't have the right skill, that's it. Nobody is going to prefer you, and nobody is going to really embrace you, irrespective of which institution you passed out from or how much ever experience you really had. So that's from my end. So
it's the learning curve that needs to matter, and it has to be steep for learning the trade secrets. Mm-hmm. So I'll just go to Mr. Vishal. So for his closing comments, Mr. Vishal. I hope I have lost him for the moment. Okay, so I think it was overall a mind-opening session, and there have been very, illustrious comments by the reward panelist over here. So overall, what we touched upon, we began with what was the traditional career in finance, and in present times and in future, what we see the career in finance will evolve into. What are the various demands of this career? And most importantly, what we have tried to figure out that whichever technology is coming, okay, today or tomorrow, if you are clear with the basics, you are clear with the coding, you are clear with the algorithm knowledge and all that, so technology will come and go, but your skill set, ultimately your fundamentals, your steep learning curve matters. So come out with a thinking mind, especially the design thinking skills you need to develop. So try to get mentored by whatever possible ways. You try to shift to online courses, try to go for online webinars like this that is being conducted for today. So try to get mentored, try to develop the habit of problem solving. So whenever you talk about you discuss a certain technology or certain problem in hand, you go for a case study, try to go for the experiential learning. So go for the habit of the problem solving, identify the gaps, and then on the venture ideation can happen. So this is overally the present picture in this scenario, that is, yes, technology is really affecting their career in finance, but technology will come and go. So the basic knowledge and all the skill sets, you need to have an holistic approach towards any career for that sake, whether it be finance or anything like that. So with that, the students can excel through, and whether it is a pandemic situation or non-pandemic situation, the learning has to continue, and that's the mool mantra. Okay, so be careful and focus on your learning. So technologies will come and go, but your learning is going to stay with you. So on that note, I thank all the esteemed panelists over here, and I like to thank ABP Education for putting up this nice session. Thank you one and all. Thank you the participants and Chaudhary sir, Mr. Rangeen, Mr. Srikanth, and we have earlier, Mr. Rajesh has left us because of certain exigency. Mr. Vishal was with us. So I thank all the panelists for their deep insights, and I hope this session has really cleared certain doubts in the minds of the students, and they have really got a direction to move forward. Thank you one and all.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
Bye-bye.